Hello, Red Sox fans. Welcome back to Talk Sox. Ethan and Brandon here once again to talk about everything going on with the Red Sox. And finally, at long last, after a very long offseason, baseball is unofficially back. We're talking about spring camp right now. Spring training is just a few days away at the time of recording, and then obviously from that point forth, it's about 4 or 5 weeks from opening day, which is what everyone's been waiting for through these winter months, and we're very excited for that. But we're talking about spring training right now, and there's a lot to talk about with the Red Sox, from the World Baseball Classic to a lot of new faces on this roster. Some top prospects are going to get some serious run in the spring. So, Ethan, I'll throw it over to you. What are you most looking forward to during this next kind of 4 week exhibition period?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to talk about with Boston. So much happened during the offseason when it came to obtaining people healing from just so many injuries that happened during near the end of and a really unfortunate season for the Red Sox. But I want to get right into it. I'm really excited to see Garrett Crochet and, of course, Ranger Suarez hit the mound. Crochet had an amazing season in 2025. So, of course, I expect it to be an amazing season in 2026. And I think spring training will spell, of course, what's going to happen there. I think it's going to be interesting to see Ranger Suarez hit the mound for Boston and see how he meshes with the team. And I also want to talk about Brian Bayo as always. Look, he had a great, I don't want to say great, but a good
Mhm.
2025. It was his best so far with the team, but it's still not enough. So he still needs to carve out what his best can be. So I'm really looking forward to Brian Bayo. At the same time, we got to talk about, Tristan Casas and Roman Anthony, two major guys that were injured, one in the beginning of the season and one at the end of the season, two key players for the infield and the outfield that we really needed to come back. Unfortunately, they didn't. And now they're both fully healed. Knock on wood that they stay healthy this season. So it'll be really good. Casas, had a really, season ending injury happen in such an early part of 2025. So after healing for so long, I'm interested to see how he plays during spring training. Roman Anthony, it wasn't like such a horrible injury. But it was
Mhm.
so close to the end of the season where we really needed him that now that we're back in spring training and he is such a young guy, and he this was his first time in the major leagues really. This is his time to shine again. I'm really excited for that. What are you looking forward to, Brandon?
Yeah, I think, it's interesting you bring up so many guys, obviously, who, Red Sox fans are looking forward to watching. But also, a lot of those guys aren't going to be with the team for a lot of the spring because they're going to be in the World Baseball Classic throughout March. Whether it's Roman Anthony, who just got added to Team USA's roster this morning at the time of recording. Brian Bayo will be with Team Dominican Republic. Masataka Yoshida is going to be with Team Japan. A bunch of guys, Willie Abreu, Wilson Contreras, and Ranger Suarez are going to be with Team Venezuela. Jaron Duran is playing for Team Mexico again. So, I mean, there's a lot of these staple guys who aren't going to be here this spring, which obviously, sucks, if you're looking forward to watching Red Sox spring training games, you're heading down to Florida to watch them. But at the same time, that's also going to open up a lot of possibilities and a lot of opportunities for some guys that otherwise might not have gotten so much run. Johan Oviedo, who was always obviously going to be featured in spring, is probably going to get a couple more starts now, as he's ramping up for the regular season, and we get to see more of him. Sonny Gray as well, who is going to be pitching for the Red Sox for the first time this year. And again, it just adds more intrigue to, prospects. Peyton Tolley, Connolly Early
Yep.
are probably going to, Tristan Casas, as you mentioned. And so it's one of those things where obviously the World Baseball Classic is once every 3 years. It's awesome that so many Red Sox are going to be participating in it, and it's going to give fans a lot of rooting interest, regardless of who advances throughout the tournament. But it's also going to create a situation in camp where we're not going to see Roman Anthony for a couple weeks, and that sucks because he's coming off the injury, as you mentioned, and he's heading into a really important sophomore year, and we're hoping to see the best out of him. So hopefully, his time with Team USA is going to give him whatever prep and whatever wisdom he needs to to be the star of the Red Sox this year. But beyond that, I think it's also the new additions, as it were, right? The front office is mostly the same, the coaching staff is mostly the same, but there's some new faces. Caleb Durbin's this looks like he's going to be the starting second baseman this year. It'll be interesting to see how he handles that transition back from third base. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa is going to be there at spring training. Again, I mentioned Oviedo, Ryan Watson, who was a Rule 5 draft pick. So even though some of the big names aren't going to be at Red Sox spring camp, a lot of the new guys still are. And so it's going to give fans a lot of chances to, again, just get acquainted with them, what they bring to the table, and what to look forward to in the regular season.
I think this is, as much as you do bring up the point that a lot of our key players won't be there because of this, prior, I guess honor you could call it. It is a testament to the front office that they do pick these all-stars from a lot of other countries or, their nationalities, I should say.
Mhm.
We have acquired so many players that are being recognized of this skill, and unfortunately, again, they're being pulled at just a time that that they're needed by their country of origin or again of their nationality of origin. But again, this is a testament from our front office to say, look, they're being recognized unfortunately at the spring training again. But it's great because again, we didn't have a lot of these players, whether they be so early on, Roman Anthony, for example, just making it to the majors, or somebody, like Masataka Yoshida, going back to represent his country. A few years ago, the Boston Red Sox did not look like this at all.
Hmm. Yeah, no, it's a good point, and it's obviously a matter of just these players naturally love to represent their home country or their parents' home country, whatever the situation may be. But it's also one of those things where like these guys are going to be competing in games that matter as opposed to spring training games which don't really matter, at least in terms of wins and losses. And so there's always the worry of injury or these guys not being fully ramped up for the tournament or getting tired throughout in the middle of the season because they expended so much energy so early in the year during the World Baseball Classic. But again, those are sort of tertiary concerns for what otherwise should be both a very fun tournament and a very interesting spring training for the Red Sox. But as always, we'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this topic. What are you most looking forward to in spring training once the games get going? What about the World Baseball Classic are you most looking forward to? Let us know in the comments, and as always, we'll try to respond to every single one.